Most people will never understand the power of 3 a.m. When the world is quiet, when the noise dies down, when distractions disappear, that's when winners rise. You see, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary isn't talent, luck, or even opportunity. It's the willingness to do what others won't. 3 a.m. is not about the time on the clock. It's a mindset. It's a declaration that says, I own my life. I own my day. I own my destiny. 3 a.m. is not just a time. It's a declaration of power. It's the moment when the world sleeps and you choose to rise. It's when mediocrity takes a pause and mastery begins. In that sacred stillness, you meet yourself without distraction, without noise, without excuses. The silence at 3 a.m. is not emptiness. It's energy waiting to be directed. Most people wait for perfect conditions, for the right mood, for motivation to knock. But you create it. You use that hour as a weapon, because when the world is asleep, you own the world. You have no one's opinions echoing in your mind. No notifications, no comparisons, no noise. Just raw focus and intention. It's a laboratory for transformation, a place where your next chapter begins. You see, that time isn't about sleep deprivation. It's about conscious domination. It's about saying, I run my mind, my day, my destiny. The mind that wakes before dawn is the mind that wins before the day begins. The greats, the thinkers, the creators, the warriors, all have one thing in common. They mastered the art of using silence as fuel. At 3 a.m., you are not competing with the world. You are designing the world you will compete in. You are programming your subconscious to lead, to act, to dominate. You move from chaos to control, from reaction to creation. And when your mind wakes before the world, something powerful happens. You become the master of momentum. You don't stumble into the day, you sculpt it. You train your brain to obey you, not your feelings. You teach your nervous system that you are the commander, not the passenger. At 3 a.m., the ego sleeps, but the soul awakens. That's when clarity speaks, creativity flows, and direction becomes visible. You gain access to a level of focus that's almost spiritual, a sense of purpose that feels unshakable. This is not about forcing yourself awake. It's about waking up your identity. Every early hour is a contract signed with your future self, a promise that you're done living reactively. You are no longer a slave to distraction. You are the architect of momentum. When the sun rises, you've already earned the day. You've meditated, reflected, moved your body, designed your path, and now the world plays catch. Up to you. Winners don't sleep like everyone else, because winners don't live like everyone else. The 3 a.m. hour is where champions are forged, where identities are rewritten, where greatness is rehearsed in silence. It's not just a ritual. It's a revolution within. Discipline isn't punishment. It's liberation. It's the bridge between who you are and who you're destined to be. The problem isn't that people lack talent. It's that they lack the consistency to let that talent manifest. Discipline is not a feeling. It's a decision made over and over again until it becomes identity. You don't wake up disciplined. You become disciplined through repetition, through resistance, through refusing to bow to comfort. Every time you say no to distraction, you say yes to destiny. The average mind seeks ease. The extraordinary mind seeks evolution. When your alarm rings at 3 a.m., your body whispers, stay in bed. But your purpose roars, get up, we've got work to do. That's discipline, not dramatic, not glamorous, but quiet, relentless, and immovable. Every act of discipline is a deposit into the bank of confidence. Each small win compounds. The world doesn't reward wishful thinking. It rewards those who've trained their nervous system to move even when motivation has left the building. Motivation is emotion-based. Discipline is decision-based. And decision beats emotion every single time. When you master discipline, you no longer negotiate with your excuses. You rewrite the pattern of your life, turning chaos into control and doubt into dominance. Now let's talk about energy, because without energy, all discipline collapses. Energy is your ultimate currency, and how you generate it determines how far you go. Most people wait to feel energized. Achievers create energy. They don't rely on caffeine. They rely on clarity. Energy flows from alignment, from knowing what matters and cutting everything that doesn't. You want to change your life. Master your state. You can't produce greatness in a drained body or a distracted mind. Winners guard their energy like gold. They say no more than they say yes. They create space to think, to breathe, to recover. Because they know energy fuels execution. The 3 a.m. hour isn't about sleep deprivation. It's about reclaiming your life force. When you focus your energy on what truly matters, you stop scattering your potential across meaningless things. You stop chasing and you start attracting. Every breath, every thought, every movement becomes intentional. That's when you rise above burnout and move into flow. That's when you stop managing time and start mastering energy. Because when your energy is high, your focus is sharp, your decisions are bold, and your impact is unstoppable. The world doesn't belong to the busiest. It belongs to the most energized. Success demands silence, not the absence of noise around you, but the stillness within you. Most people can't hear their own potential because they're too busy listening to the world's distractions. Every scroll, every notification, every opinion pulls them further from their inner compass. But the greats, the ones who rise, the ones who dominate, they understand the power of isolation. They create silence so they can sharpen vision. You don't need more input, you need more introspection. Growth doesn't happen in chaos, it happens in clarity. And clarity is born when you step away from the noise long enough to listen to what your soul has been trying to tell you all along. When you remove the world's chatter, you discover your own command. You stop reacting and start creating. You realize the battlefield isn't out there, it's inside. And in silence, you train that inner warrior to move with precision, to strike with purpose. Every moment spent in solitude builds strength. It's where breakthroughs are born, where momentum gathers. Silence isn't weakness, it's a strategy. Winners disappear not to escape, but to evolve. Because when you return from silence, you don't come back the same. You come back unstoppable. The second weapon is identity, because all change is identity change. You will never outperform the story you tell yourself. You can read every book, watch every video, go to every seminar, but if the voice in your head still says, I'm not enough, your results will obey that belief. Your identity sets the ceiling for your success. The secret, raise the ceiling. Redefine who you are. Stop saying, I'm trying to be disciplined, and start saying, I'm the kind of person who doesn't quit. Your words are commands to your subconscious. When you speak in alignment with your vision, your brain begins to rewire for it. Identity is the anchor of action. Once you decide who you are, your behavior follows. The world tells you to fake it till you make it. I'm telling you to embody it until it's undeniable. Every time you act in alignment with your higher self, you carve a new groove in your neural map. You train your nervous system to believe, to behave, to become. Transformation isn't about doing more. It's about being more. You don't need a new strategy. You need a new standard. And that standard starts the moment you decide, this is who I am now. Once identity changes, consistency becomes effortless because it's no longer something you do. It's simply who you are. Momentum is everything. Once you start moving, the universe starts moving with you. But most people never build it because they're waiting to feel ready. Let me tell you, readiness is a lie. You don't get momentum from motivation. You get motivation from momentum. You take one small, imperfect step, and suddenly the fog starts to clear. The moment you act, energy shifts. You ignite something inside yourself that no amount of thinking could ever create. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. The winners don't wake up inspired every morning. They wake up committed. They understand that every single repetition compounds. You do it once, it's effort. You do it daily, it becomes identity. The world rewards those who can move even when they don't feel like it. Action is the cure for anxiety, for doubt, for fear. When you move, you silence the noise of your mind. You remind yourself that you are in control. And as you keep going, you become unstoppable, not because it's easy, but because you refuse to quit. The moment you commit fully, the world bends to meet your will. The next level is emotional mastery, the real key to long-term power. Most people live as slaves to their emotions, reacting instead of creating. They let frustration dictate their tone, fear dictate their choices, and insecurity dictate their dreams. But you can't build an extraordinary life with average emotional control. Emotional mastery isn't about suppressing what you feel. It's about owning it. It's about recognizing emotion as energy in motion, something you can redirect toward your mission. Winners don't let emotion decide their day. They use emotion to fuel their purpose. Anger becomes dryness. Pain becomes power. You have to learn to use what hurts you as the very thing that propels you forward. Every great achiever has felt doubt, has faced rejection, has battled exhaustion, but they didn't stop there. They used it. They took that emotional energy and said, this is mine now. This will serve me. When you learn to command your emotions instead of obeying them, your world expands. You stop reacting to life and start designing it. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start saying, how can I use this? The minute you master your emotions, you master your destiny. Because nothing, no setback, no judgment, no failure can shake the person who knows how to turn emotion into fuel. Your environment is either your prison or your power source. Most people underestimate how deeply their surroundings shape their standards, their mindset, their energy. You can't expect to think like a champion if you're surrounded by people who settle for average. You can't grow in soil that resists growth. If you want to evolve, you must curate your environment like your life depends on it, because it does. The voices you listen to, the habits you observe, the energy you absorb, they all build or break your momentum. You can't fly with eagles while walking with turkeys. You've got to make the courageous choice to step away from comfort, from gossip, from negativity, and surround yourself with people who challenge you to rise. Isolation for growth isn't loneliness, it's alignment. You create space for clarity. You protect your focus like sacred ground. Winners are intentional about who and what they let into their mental ecosystem. Every conversation, every playlist, every morning routine, these are not random. They're tools. Tools that either sharpen your mind or dull your edge. The most powerful transformation often begins when you choose silence over distraction, discipline over drama, a purpose over comfort. The moment you design your environment to support your goals, success stops feeling forced. It becomes natural. Because when your environment fuels you, you no longer fight for energy. You flow with it. But here's the truth most people never face. Discipline without identity is temporary. You can push yourself for a while, but if you don't believe you're the kind of person who lives at that level, you'll always return to your comfort zone. Change doesn't stick until it becomes who you are. Identity is the thermostat of your life. It determines your internal settings. You can crank the heat of motivation, but if your identity is still set at average, you'll cool down every time. Winners don't just do more, they become more. They speak differently about themselves. They stop saying, I'm trying, and start saying, this is who I am. Identity creates consistency. Once you adopt the belief that you are disciplined, focused, relentless, your behavior automatically aligns. You no longer force action, you flow with it. Every decision either reinforces your identity or rewires it. When you start living as your future self now, your mind and body catch up. You stop chasing success and start attracting it because your thoughts, actions, and emotions are in sync. The most powerful transformation happens when you stop asking, how do I change? And start declaring, who do I need to become? That's when the game shifts, because now your standards aren't temporary, they're permanent. You're no longer acting out of willpower, you're acting out of identity, and identity doesn't fade, it defines you. Momentum is built, not found. Too many people wait for the perfect moment, the ideal conditions, the right motivation before taking action, but that's not how transformation works. You don't need to feel ready. You need to get moving. Action creates emotion. Motion fuels motivation. The more you do, the more energy you generate. Momentum is the invisible force that separates dreamers from doers. Once you take that first step, something inside you ignites. You start to see progress, and progress builds confidence. Confidence builds more action, and suddenly you're unstoppable. That's the magic of momentum. It doesn't come to you, it grows from you. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you stack evidence that you're capable, strong, and disciplined. That evidence rewires your brain. It redefines what's possible. Stop waiting for clarity. Create it through movement. Don't wait to be inspired. Act, and the inspiration will follow. Winners understand